From Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 to 48. Jesus, after just teaching all of us that we're all guilty, begins to teach now on a new topic. And the topic Jesus wants to continue on with is this. The new law is love, my friends. Love. Jesus says, yeah, hate your enemies, love your friends. That's old school. Jesus says, I want to teach you to love everyone. You know, Jesus had just spent time teaching about the fact that we're all less than perfect. One of the realizations of the full understanding and grasping that you and I are sinful together and we make mistakes is that suddenly we do not separate ourselves from everyone else. Suddenly we're not better than others. You know, if we really understand we make mistakes and we're sinful, we're not going to set ourselves apart. I believe that's why Jesus was trying to turn the world upside down, trying to teach about our actions being louder than words, and trying to teach that we're all guilty. That's the last 3 weeks' sermon titles right there. And now Jesus is trying to say love everybody. It's a little bit easier to love people if you keep them close. Have you ever noticed that? Long-distance relationships are tough, unless you need a little space and break. Then they're a blessing. But we need to keep people that we love close. We need to keep the people we struggle with close. To love is a decision. It's another way to say this. I remember the first time I learned this lesson. To love is a decision. It was at a Lutheran marriage encounter weekend with my wife. And it was a watershed experience. To learn about loving is an active decision we make. And through all things we maintain love. And we talked about the tools to maintain that love and the communication. And I'm telling you, I would not be a pastor today if it was not for that Lutheran marriage encounter weekend. It was one of the stepping stones that prepared me in faith to be who I am today. To love is a decision. But unfortunately, we make the decision to judge, to push away, to hold resentment, or to think that perhaps we're not as bad as the other person. When in reality, we're all pretty broken. Last week I had sent out an email, meditation, and I used some military language. I talked about spiritual warfare and spiritual battle and how we can pray into this, and we have the ability to pray. And I got a response from an old high school friend, and his response was rather blistering. He made some accusations that I have bought into the policies of the government, that I approve of war. He talked to me in this email about being insensitive to use such language. And then he went on to explain a lot of his difficulties with God, with faith, and with other things, and that I am a part of the problem. It was blistering, to say the least. He is an avowed atheist. And you know what? When I first read that, I was preparing to preach on Sunday. And I took some time, and I decided now is probably not the best time to respond to this email. And I made a decision, though, to love my friend, because he is my friend. And even though there's strong differences of opinion, I still love him. He and I used to run around together. Even back then, I was trying to keep him out of trouble. Well, okay, maybe we caused a lot of trouble together. That would be more truthful. But I love him, and I decided that somewhere down the road, will visit. I preached the next day, and I used that reference. You know, if I would have slammed the door on his email and reacted back and attacked and had been aggressive, I don't know that I would have maintained the possibility to have open dialogue with him later. I want to understand him a little more. I want to see where he's coming from. I want to know what's going on within him. It's too easy to push people away that hurt or offend us, when what we need to know is love is a decision. Last week, I was a part of an experience that was also all about love being a decision. It was called Challenge Day, and it happened at St. Agnes Church. It was the best church service I think I've ever been to, and we never mentioned God, and we never prayed. Not once. It was run by an organization out of California, and they got 30 some of us adults together in this community to get ready to receive 100 high school kids from 9th grade to 11th grade. And the whole purpose of this day was to break down the walls and the barriers that we typically use to separate one another, to judge one another, in a sense, to throw stones at each other, to not love. So these trainers, they made certain that we as adults knew our role, and our role was to be 100% into the day. When they said it was game time, they said you need to get up, scream, shout, holler, dance, and do it all. They said when it's time to dance, you better be busting a move. And they said if you don't know how to dance, that's even better because the kids will laugh at you. And they said nothing disarms kids more than watching a bunch of adults who think they know how to dance. And every one of us adults took our charge seriously. The premise was, no one today is broken. Your job is to love these kids. And through your love and your breaking the walls down, you need to provide a space and an opportunity for these kids to complete statements like, if you really knew me, and then allow them to share the pain of their life. And us adults took it serious. There was only one way into that program that day, and that was through a tight tunnel formed by every one of us adults. And when those kids got off the bus and they first stepped into the church, they had to go through screaming, cheering, high-fiving, butt-bumping, chest-bumping adults. Oh my gosh, they were panicked. They did not know what had hit them. But it was shock and awe. And it was the beginning of a day that encouraged them to take down the bricks and the mortar and the protection that they put up around their lives so they could share who they really were. It took a decision to love to let this happen with these kids. And we adults knew that was our job, and so we did it. The day culminated in a half-an-hour event. It was called Cross the Line. And you know what? For 30 minutes, there were 2 large tape lines over the sanctuary. And you stood on one side of the line, and for 30 minutes in total silence, the facilitators would read a statement. And one statement I remember was, if you've ever been sexually or physically harmed by someone who says, I love you, cross the line. And people would cross the line. We didn't speak any words. The only thing we could do was to make a sign like this that meant, I love you, I'm feeling you, I support you. They asked questions about alcohol and abuse. They asked questions about being called stupid and ridiculed and judged on body weight. And throughout the entire 30 minutes, people summoned up the courage to cross the line and turn around and look back. You know what happened that day? A decision to love was made, and then a decision to trust was made, and then people realized we're all broken. We all need love and support. Jesus' teaching today gets to the heart of love and acceptance. Jesus says, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Jesus says, create an environment where someone can share with you how they're hurt. So together, you can love and grow. That was a powerful, powerful experience. See why I say it was the best church I've been to in a long time? We just didn't say God or any prayers. But there was a lot of love there. And where there's love, God says, there I am. Funny thing about my buddy who emailed me, instead of blistering him right back and making some kind of accusatory statements, that's not a word, sorry, but talking about what I see him do and the kind of profession he is, I just waited. When I got home from church Sunday, there was another email from him. That email had softened in tone. And I still haven't fully responded, and I was doing that tonight before the sermon, and what I can say is because of a decision to love, there's still a dialogue. There's still an opportunity for mutual respect and to share love. We may not communicate eye to eye on faith and theology, but there's no reason we can't love each other. That's what Jesus would ask me to do. In the week to come, I invite you to realize, how can you love the people who need to be loved around you? How can you let other people love you just the way you are? It's going to take some trust. And you may have to take down some barriers. But where there is love, there is God. And so I invite you to make a decision to love. Amen.